everyone. It's that time of the week. Welcome back to another great episode of Basscast Radio. I'm your host, Brian Carter, and joined with me always, Hank the Bass Geek and Thomas Aarons from Fishing in Virginia. The DMV, guys, what all has been going on? Welcome back. Before we get started, everybody, we did take the week off last week. It was a holiday for me. I got a lot of work done around the house. Hopefully it sustains. But we're hopefully, as you guys can see, you can't see yet, but I'm in a new studio. I'm upstairs now. I'm not in the basement no more. Got a brand new chair, brand new desk, brand new office. We're going to have the light in the studio. A lot of stuff's going to be changing right here pretty soon.
Ooh, fancy.
Danielle needed an office. And so I figured, heck, Wednesday nights, it's going to be in my office. So here we go, Basscast Radio. Some things we need to take care of here first before we get started. Groove Street Radio, guys, right here in Bedford, Virginia. Our podcast is there playing 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They have about 10 different podcasts on top of a lot of podcasts that are local to Bedford, Virginia. So if you live in the area and you want to know what's happening or keep up with what's going on, Groove Street Radio is the way to go.
24/7. Dang, that's awesome.
24/7.
If you love fishing or you want to try to break a terrorist, tune in.
Also, guys, the American Angler Outdoors, our YouTube is uploaded there. I've been told that they've updated a lot of stuff the last couple of days. I haven't watched any of it because I'm working on projects and it's summertime. But Alvin's got a great thing going on over there. You can watch Basscast Radio there as well, plus a lot of other great podcasts that you can watch. So there's the watch side of it. And this happened about a month ago, Dockside Live Radio down in Florida. We're syndicate and we're a part of them. And you can listen to us at 10 and 11 o'clock every weekend on Dockside Live Radio. So please head on over. Now, guys, this is a radio station. They have appearances. It's one of the, a lot of us have gone to the digital radio. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I have not listened to any local radio stations on the FM dial. I just don't do it. I'm a podcaster. I listen to a lot of podcasts and I listen to a lot of, digital radio and, digital scanners and everything digital. We're all geeks, right, Geek?
Yeah. Baseball's probably it for me. Like baseball's the last thing that I still listen to on the radio.
I still listen to some music, but
yeah.
I also play music. So I know it's easier to do the whole, phone thing, but I find it annoying. So
boom. All right.
That's me. There's a few things I'm still a crotchety old man about. So.
Guys, tonight we've got Mr. Eddie Carper on with us tonight, and we're going to talk about Major League Fishing and the Tackle Warehouse Series. But we're going to go around the room real quick and see what's been happening. And we're going to start off with Geek first because Thomas has got a lot going on, everybody. I mean, a whole lot. And let's just hope this whole lot don't make it down here because it's not going to be a good thing. But Geek, what's happening in your world?
Well, this is week 2 of the so I guess last week I didn't get to tell everybody, but we are now pushing out 5 videos in a row a week. So we are doing Sunday through Thursday, 5 p.m. Eastern time, as always. We're doing 3 long play videos and 2 shorts. So
boom.
I've just been trying not to drown.
I watched a video the other day, and it's what it's taken, guys, for YouTube, the Basscast podcast, you name it. There's so much, as we got back to the digital talk, there's so much digital content out there right now that you either put out a lot or you get washed away. Simple. I mean, it's no lie. And that's why Thomas puts out 12 shows a week. He has got every aspect of Virginia covered. And Thomas, man, you talked about something last night that we hope does not affect us right here in Central Virginia, but he's going to give us the short version. You can listen to the long version on fishing the DMV.
Short and sweet with the DMV. I cover everything that has to do with fishing in the DC, Maryland, Virginia area. I'm actually on the Black Bass Advisory Board for Maryland. So any legislation that has to do with freshwater black bass fishing, we actually get to set that narrative. And we got some big things coming down the pike, including fishing licenses are going up big time. They will be running out of money in 4 years because of inflation and everything else that's going on. They cannot sustain how they try to keep the Potomac River as good as it is. Now, you might think to yourself, well, what about Virginia, West Virginia, all those other states? They have a shared waters rule, so they don't actually have to help out too much.
Yeah.
So it's going to be spicy to see where things go. And on top of that, this is the biggest takeaway. You might think, well, I'm an American and I don't need a damn fishing license. Well, if somebody finds you or pulls you over on the water, that money does not go back to the Department of Natural Resources. That just gets vaporized into the state. So when people are stopping you on the water, though all that money gathered does not do a damn thing for the fisheries. God bless all this bureaucracy. It's absolutely ridiculous. And allegedly, there's more than, that's not just the only state that does it that way, to where if you get stopped on Florida, places like that, not a lot of that money actually sees it back to Lake Okeechobee.
You know, I was wondering about that. And, you know, because the game and fish is part of, I guess, the parks, the recreation. And does some of the money go, like when we book or pay our fees to get into the state parks? Or does that go to pay park rangers, et cetera, et cetera? Because, I mean, you know, it's 30. I mean, it's still great that, gosh, stay at a state park, guys. It's $30 a night. I mean, right here in Virginia, you cannot get a hotel nowhere close to that. I don't care where you stay. $30.
Well, you can, but you ain't going to want to stay there.
Yeah. And to be
Remember
honest,
the
guys,
old game where you drop a marble in the top and the marbles would work their way down?
Yes.
Basically, how it's explained to me is that lump sum gets dropped into the state coffers, and then eventually something may or may not see its way back. Which to me, I threw a big fit saying this is the most asinine thing ever, to where a person that has like DWR, you know, on their apparel stops you for doing something illegal for buying a fishing license or not buying one. And then none of that goes back to the state. So why would you increase the prices? Because if people refuse to buy it, you can't even enforce it because it doesn't even go back to you. It makes no sense.
No.
So go listen to the show. It's up. And do we want to drop a hint how much it might be going up to? I mean, guys, I saw it and I said, holy cow. I mean, it's like, it could be the little $20.
Well, let's not give it away, but let's just say
it's going up a lot.
Is it more than what an out-of-state license is right now?
Oh, it's going to be more. It's definitely going to be more.
There we go. There we go. I'm talking about an in-state. Is the in-state going to increase more? Just so we can give them a hint.
Here's the biggest hint I'm going to give you. In Maryland area, so many states are outlawing tournaments early, and it's putting more pressure on the states next to it. It's almost going to be like a tariff, where if you want to come into the state to fish, it'll cost you. And if more and more states say you're not allowed to fish at a certain time of year, I think this is going to be a domino effect. Because if you're in Tennessee and Kentucky says you're not allowed to fish tournaments until June, of course you'd want to say like, yeah, it's going to cost you $200 to come into our state in April and wreck our fisheries. This is a domino effect that I don't think states think about when they're like, aren't we virtuous by doing this? No, you're an asshole. But that's just me.
Bam. You heard it right here. Basscast Radio. Thomas dropping it. Again, guys, Eddie Carper with us tonight. I saw this really cool post. We've never met Eddie at all. Come to find out, the dude's famous as all get out. We didn't know that. I mean, you know, we're very appreciative of coming on and talking with us tonight about this topic. He got an email from Major League Fishing, and it was talking about changes for 2025. And top 50 in angler the year would qualify. That's for the Red Crest, right?
I think the top 50 qualify for the championship.
Oh, the championship. Okay. The winners get $200,000 and Red Crest berth. All 50 are guaranteed a check. So there's a lot of things happening in Major League Fishing that sometimes we don't get to see because it goes directly to the anglers themselves. But before we talk about that, Eddie, tell us a little bit about you and yourself. And you guys been all over the world, so we're going to give you the mic.
Okay. Well, for starters, I grew up in in Oklahoma, some in Texas, and some in Oklahoma. I was in California for a little bit when I was a kid. So I graduated high school in Wright City, Oklahoma. It's a little bitty town, about 600 people is about all that's there. So a real small school. I was graduate. I think there was 41 in my graduating class. That includes me. So amazingly, I got to walk across the stage because I hated school. I was out fishing or hunting or something.
That's
you
awesome.
know, that's where I wanted to be. I did not want to be in school, but we muddled our way through school and graduated and got a diploma and all that good business. And then after that, I moved to Arkansas for a little while. Got a little job in a pallet mill. Finally I'm talking about I was 18 years old. Bought me a little 15.5-foot roughneck with 85 Emerald on it. And buddy, I was Cadillacing, you know. So a few years later and a few boats later, you know, I fish Millwood Lake a lot. It's down in southwest Arkansas. I caught one there that weighed 1339, practicing for a tournament.
Wow.
Yeah, I should not have set the hook on that fish, and technically I didn't. It hooked itself, but still, you know, that's the kind of fish that makes you go weak in the knees.
Yeah.
How close were you to the record on that thing?
I was about 3 pounds from the record.
I thought the record was like 16.
Yeah, and it was caught there too, by the way, I think.
Yes, it was caught there.
A lot of 10 to 15 pound fish were coming out of Millwood in the late 90s, early 2000s. I don't think it's quite that way anymore, but you can still go there and catch a big old fat sack, and it's nothing but lily pads and peppergrass and water willows and
it's
alligator stumps.
It's awesome. That's what he's saying. It's awesome.
So everything that you want to fish, if you want to learn certain techniques, how to fish certain patterns around cypress trees, stumps, any type of that grass, river ledges, whatever, it's all there. You can fish it all right there. I think the biggest limit I ever had on that lake, a 5-fish limit, was in a tournament. I think it was 42 pounds.
Good God.
Damn.
Wow.
The biggest. Now, the limit on that lake at the time when I lived there was 3 fish. They had to be 16 inches. It was not a problem to catch a 16-inch fish. My biggest 3-fish limit there was 27 pounds.
That's our 5-fish up here.
Yeah, and I caught them in
14s.
like late May and June. Coincidentally, the 13-pounder I caught was in May. So she had already laid and she was poor and skinny and wide, sunk in her head. Huge fish. I bet she would have weighed in that 15-pound range had she been healthy and pre-spawn, maybe a little more even. But
that's amazing.
Yeah, I've caught 4 fish over 10 pounds in my life, and 3 came out of Arkansas. Not only that lake, but Monticello down in southern Arkansas, central Arkansas. I think they drained that lake here a year or 2 ago. But then I've caught a couple of 10s in Florida.
All right,
so I had a 10 when I went on the St. John's a few years ago.
Wow. So you fished a lot of tournaments. I bet you that much right there. I mean, a lot of tournaments. Do you remember, like, what's your biggest win?
My biggest win to date, and look, it was only a BFL, and that's my biggest win.
Wrong with that.
And I earned $13,000 something for that, and it was on the St. Johns River in Florida in 2019. I went down there. I didn't even practice. I just put the boat in the water and said, I found some stuff on Google Earth and said, that's where I'm going. So I drove 40 miles downriver to hit that old dock thing that was in the water. And I got there and, I was on. They were there. I never had any company around me all day, but I caught fish all day long. I weighed in. I had 26 pounds even, but I probably should have had more along around 35 or 36.
Wow.
just couldn't keep them big suckers on the hook, you know. Sometimes it happens that what was deal was is they were spawning around these uh pilings for this old
Hmm.
dock, and you know, I knew what they were doing as soon as I started catching them, but I was skin hooking them on a lip and whatever, and they were you know just jumping off right and left, just made me sick.
Mm.
But we wound up getting 5 in the boat, and they weighed 26 pounds,
Holy
and
cow.
we won the tournament. So it was a good day.
Well, let's dive into this topic right here. Like I told you guys earlier, I was just guys. I'm not gonna lie. I'm a Gary Vaynerchuk guy. I go through a lot of different people's profiles, and I scroll not a lot, but sometimes I scroll the internet because you can find some really good stories and a lot of things that you know people just put stuff up on the internet, and you're like, wow. And this is when it kind of intrigued me a little bit, and that was 2025. 2025, a no entry fee championship in the Tackle Warehouse Invitationals, and Tackle Warehouse reaching out to you, Eddie. And how did this all happen? I mean, was there for you guys that don't know, we all thought you had to qualify for them, right, guys? We thought you had to qualify for the invitationals for Tackle Warehouse, and then they changed their name, and so it became
I
where.
agree, Brian.
And so it became this thing
Uh-oh.
where a lot of guys that we were debating this whole entire topic were like, I thought you had to qualify, or we thought you had to do something to be on the tag. I know you just got to have money. Go ahead.
Yeah, pretty much.
Pretty much.
I missed most of that because it was cutting out. I don't know if it was on my end or your end or
It probably was, but yeah. So
what.
talk about it. Talk about you getting the email, you getting the letter from Tackle Warehouse about the
Yeah.
no entry championship for 2025, and how did that whole thing come about for you?
So we'll back up just a little bit
Okay.
and go back into last year. And I had actually in 2023, 2022, yeah, 22. I fished the Toyota Series Central Division, and I
Okay.
fished the NPFL. So I qualified for the invitationals through the Toyota Series, right? So I actually was one of the guys that actually did qualify. So I fished the invitationals last year. The where I was working at the time did not really approve of it, so I didn't get to practice for any of the tournaments. I went blind. And since y'all are in Virginia talking about Potomac, that's the only place I got to check. I just showed up there, put my boat in the water, and fished around a little bit and figured something out and wound up. Um, I I think I wound up 25th, but I was actually going into the last day. I was like eighth. You know, I was pretty
Oh
well
wow.
up there. But the last day I couldn't catch my fifth fish for some odd reason. I guess I ran out of fish because I didn't get to practice. So I found a group of fish and I seined them for all they was
Exhausted them.
worth, and then I was done. So that's kind of how that went. And that's how the whole year went. I actually finished 70th in the points without any practice whatsoever
Wow.
for any of them. I did. I'm lying. I did practice for Okeechobee for 2 days at Okeechobee, the first one, and then when I come back from that, my work had an issue, and that's how I resolved it. I said, well, I just won't practice then
Right.
for the rest of them. But anyway, the email that I got came from the tournament director, Kevin Hunt, and he sent that to pretty much everybody that fished from what I understand, fished the Tackle Warehouse Tour in 24 and 25. Or, I mean, 23 and 24. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. So, I read down this thing and it kind of got me excited a little bit, right? Because I didn't get to fish them this year because due to my fishing and whatever, I got laid off from my job, you know, and back in October of 23. So that pretty much, killed my chances to pay any deposits or do anything like that because I didn't know what the future held. And it wound up as I didn't get back to work until February of 24. So I'm glad I didn't commit to fishing a tour. So anyway, back to the email. The only thing that really upset me when I read that was the fact that the entry fees are going up from 5,000 to 5,500 per tournament, right? So that's pretty doggone steep. But that extra $500 is probably, I'm just assuming, going to be what covers the championship, right? Because everybody gets a check that qualifies, and there is no entry fee. So that $500 is scooped off and set to the side for the championship. So I sort of I sort of approve of that, and then at the same time I disapprove of it because man, those entry fees are getting way up there.
Yeah.
And you guys already alluded to the inflation and everything affecting everybody. People are retiring every day, getting out of the sport because it's so costly. But I do think that they're on the right path. They're asking questions. They're sending these emails out to gauge interest, and some of the questions on that email, which did not pertain to the actual championship thing and the following year, they asked, should we keep forward facing sonar? Should we limit forward facing sonar? Should we,
Here we go, boys and girls.
Place different things on there, and I voiced my unbiased opinion on that. And I have forward facing sonar. I do. I ain't gonna lie to nobody. I got it and I use it. I'm not good with it. I'm not gonna say I'm good with it. I have Lowrance Active Target, and I've had it since it came out. Right. I've only got the first version. I don't have the Active Target 2.
Right.
So there's some things I got to work on, and with the way today's fishing is going, you better be pretty good at it. If they're going to allow it in tournaments, the way it currently is, you better have 2 transducers on the front and a couple at the back to do what you need to do to stay competitive, because it's very hard to scan deep open water. You may be in 50 foot of water or even 100 foot of water, and the fish are suspended. You're not going to see those dadgum fish on side imaging.
No.
You think. I'm sorry. I don't care what units you got. Seeing them and where they're at is very important. And more importantly, you're not going to see those bait fish unless they're pretty close to you within that cone close to the boat. You can see them. But if they're out there 50 feet, you're never going to see nothing. It'd just be just like open water, right? So that's kind of where that's going. And I hate to go off in that direction, but I think something's got to be either go full bore with it, or let's back up and look at things and make it more back towards what it was 5 or 6, 8 years ago. And me, I'm a professed flipper. I like shallow water, so the Potomac is perfect for me. I love the place. I would freaking move there if I could. Wow. I mean, I love that place. It fishes to every strength that I have. I can put it to work on the Potomac River or the James River or Chickahominy or any of that down in there. Any of the East Coast stuff, I can do that. So I kind of love that. I hate to kind of get off the subject here a little bit.
No, you're good.
Circling back to that email, I thought it was a very good, very well written email, and a very well what I want to call it, questionnaire that they had attached on there.
Right, a poll they had on there.
I think that was some very good information, and I gave them some feedback, and some of that may or may not be, what other people would say. And I'm in favor of limiting the technology to maybe one sonar, type deal, to make it, because look, can't everybody afford all that stuff? Can't all of us go and put $50,000 worth of Lowrance electronics on our boat to be able to go out there and catch fish? So I think they need to do something there. But one of the bigger things that I'll say on here, and I'll say it publicly, and I'm not calling shade towards MLF or anybody else, But if they're going to have a set of rules, they've got to enforce those set of rules equally among the whole field.
Right. Oh, yeah.
When I was fishing in 2023, I know for a fact there were some people over here, getting information inside the no information rule. They're doing it, and it's a fact, and it happens. It happens more than what people are willing to admit it happens, right? So we have to find a way to corral that a little bit, and kind of take that up. Because look, I don't have $100,000 to go call old Joe down here in Okeechobee and tell me where all the fish are at,
and pay the fine,
and pay and pay the fine. You know what I'm saying? I mean, yeah. So I messed up in 23, and I fished inside an off limits area, and I called the tournament director immediately as soon as I figured it out and said, "Hey, I've been fishing in here for about 50 yards. Your sign's turned around backwards and pointing the other way." I went right by it, never saw it, and they gave me a 10-minute time penalty for that. Now I didn't catch any fish in the area, but I knew when I called him, when I did that I was taking a chance on getting DQ'd right there, because it is a DQable offense.
Yeah.
And I knew this, but I had to call and self-report it. So, things happen. You get in the moment, you get excited, you do things sometimes, but you have to be honest and upfront about those mistakes. And so that was one of the more important things I said in the email back, was about the, buying information.
Right.
Well, technically, you weren't supposed to.
All right, Thomas, go for it.
So many sports have a salary cap. What would people think if we put a complete cap on? You are only allowed to have a max of $100,000. That includes boat, motor, fishing tackle, electronics. Not just electronics, but everything. What would people's opinions of that be?
I love it. I think it'd be a move in the right, because, like, again, we've had this conversation. We've said that, the reason why the kayak fishing, tournament fishing boom happened is because they're pricing so many people out of boat fishing.
Exactly.
Because that's the one thing I keep hearing about electronics is the price. But it's like, I agree with that. But if we say we'll limit this, but then you can buy a $200,000 Icon boat and have all Megabass stuff, it's like, well, you just moved the money. Like you still have a huge advantage because you have the wallet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've spoken to so many different anglers, and Eddie, how old are you, brother?
I am 51.
So right around Eddie's age or even older that have said my boat cost less than these electronics. I mean, these guys, these are weekend anglers. I mean, that are fishing small tournaments, $100 entry fee, about the average. But like we said on the last show a couple weeks ago, it's becoming a point now where I'm spending $20,000 electronics to take home a $50 check. And that's for the weekend warrior. That's where I'm going with this. And that's, because not everybody's going to be an elite. Not everybody's going to fish a tackle warehouse. Not everybody's going to be able to fish the Bassmaster Opens. I mean, when the entry fees get the 30, 4, 5, and the 5,500 that Eddie just talked about, them going up to disperse the money towards the classic pod. But I mean, is there a point where the toys are going to outweigh the boat? I mean,
yeah, and I think in my mind, if you really want to make this a trend, everyone that has listened to my show knows, if you want to make this truly a sport and not like NASCAR, you need to put some kind of cap in there, like the old school Bassmaster Classic, man. Everyone, same boat, same amount of tackle. We weigh that stuff. Like, you need to put more parameters in like that, so it's a true test of skill. Because, and I agree that there needs to be limitations on electronics, but if the idea is like who can spend more money, well, that money will get allocated somewhere else. I will get the better boat. I will get the better tackle. I can do this, and that. And so there has to be some true limiting factor, like NASCAR has. Everyone, this is what you're allowed to have underneath the hood, period, end of story. Not just one piece, but the whole thing.
Yeah. And, Eddie, I've got a question, because, even with Thomas' question about, being able to put a salary cap, so to speak. I've even said I think we should either eliminate practice altogether, off limits, period, or at least scale it down to 1 day of practice tops.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm because my whole fishing career, I've always been an employee somewhere. Mm-hmm. And for the last 14, 15 years, I've been an employee of Bechtel Construction Corporation. It's a big, gigantic, we build great big stuff, huge stuff. So, I get 4 weeks a year vacation, right? That's all I get. So I don't like to burn all that on fishing. I like to burn some of it on deer hunting in the fall with my family, because that's, to me, is actually more important than the fishing. But I really love fishing. I ain't gonna lie to nobody. But here's what I am in an absolute 100%. I would pay the entry fees tomorrow and jump in it blind. Just whoop, here we go. No practice, no information, because you don't know where the heck you're going to go until a week before. You got a week to get your shit together and get there.
Yeah.
You know the tournament dates. You know when it's going to be. You just don't know where it's going to be. And I think that's why the MLF Cups did so daggum good.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I was about to say.
Drawing power for them. That is the same drawing power for the American public. That's what we want to see. We don't want to see a guy go out there, spend a week fishing and find every hole on the lake, or 120 of them go find every hole on the lake. And then all of a sudden on day 4, they take off and go out there. Well, duh, they're going to have it figured out. But if they don't know where they're going, they don't get any practice or nothing like that, dude, that's baptism by fire.
Yeah.
And I would sign up for it today.
And there's some logistics that they would have to take care of course. Of course, you'd have to, the organization would probably have to guarantee some places, with some sort of reservations, because even a week before, that's going to be real hard. And then, of course, because I love the idea and I love the cups, but I think the next thing is, now it'd be hard to do that, because you've got, they like to do the little expos now with them and, all that. So there's so much logistically, like, I love that. And we've had this conversation 100 times. I've said it 100 times. As soon as MLF brought out the tour, the Bass Pro Tour, I said, they're screwing up. Because I said the same thing. Because what made them great is the fact that we get to see professionals, the best in the business, do fish like we fish. I fish every weekend. Now, I fish Highland reservoirs right now I'm catching bass on topwater over 50 to 150 foot of water, but I got to find them every week. I don't have 3 days pre-practice, to do it. And it's good to see the pros go out there and show us how they do it. And that's why I love it so much.
Yeah. And I've always said this about the MLF. It is the greatest idea that may not have been greatly executed by the business. And what they have going for them, and this is why I think Bass is always going to be terrified of MLF, is they have the ability, because they don't have the heritage, to change and adjust. And you could hate the change or you could like the change, but because they don't have 100 years of this is how we did it, they can keep tweaking their formula. And that's terrifying to another business, because what happens if they crack it? And guess what? I love the very first one they did, when they went up to Lake Chautauqua, and they drive them in the truck. You don't know where they're going.
Yes.
One thing they got right with the tour is the idea is, like, let's have a smaller field so we can go to a Dale Hollow or a place like that. You could, with that smaller field, you could go to Kerr, Gaston, Roanoke Rapids. There's 3 lakes right there. And there's something there. And I don't know if they're the ones that'll crack it, the NPFL, but there is definitely something cool with that smaller field, and go to a place that's not Hartwell, for the love of God, for the 87th time. There are other lakes in the country.
Right. Exactly. I am a huge... Look, it's if they're not going to do something with the electronics and the forward-facing sonar and all that, which I'm not saying they should or shouldn't, I kind of I will say they should. They should put some limitations. But
There should be some
if,
limitations.
Yeah.
I love my
if,
forward face sonar. I told
Yeah.
somebody the other day,
we
you'll
all
get
do.
mine just like when the same time you get my guns when you pry it from my cold dead hands.
Right.
But
Hell,
there should be some limitations. I
we
agree
got guys
100%.
running around with 5 or 6 of them
Yeah,
transmissions on their
no,
stuff,
Yeah.
dude. I
it's
mean,
too much.
that's just too much, and it's if you want my opinion, it just looks bad on the sport. In my
I agree.
opinion,
Yeah.
to the
Yeah.
public.
100%.
It's an arms race. It's an arms
Mhm.
race, and
I tell
kayak.
you what, I
And
have.
kayak fishing is experiencing the same thing right now. It becomes an
Yeah.
arms race when it's unchecked.
Mm-hmm.
I have one 12-inch Lowrance at my console in my boat. I have one 12-inch Lowrance on the deck of my boat. I have one forward-facing sonar. Of course, I have down the side imaging, the stuff that comes with. But that's all I feel like I need to be successful. That's it. I look at computer screens all week. I don't really want to be looking at grass while I'm out there, fishing, so much. I want to find where the fish are, and then I want to, spot lock or whatever the case is, pole down and fish for them. That's my kind of deal. And I don't really like to sit in one place either. I like to keep it going, keep it moving, but I was brought up that way, back when Dad was teaching me how to fish when I was in my teens, young teens, as a matter of fact. He would go so fast on his trolling motor, and he had like a little, hell, he had a little duck
Probably like a
boat.
9.9 or something.
Yeah,
And he had a 60 horse on it, and he had an old Johnson trolling motor on the
Oh,
thing,
wow.
or whatever, OMC trolling motor. And he would put that thing on high and just round, and he would just hit those high percentage places that I was too young to pick that up. But eventually I did pick that up, and I adopted that philosophy into my fishing today. Of course, I fish a little bigger stuff than he does or ever did. But what he taught me was that you're not going to catch a fish by every stump. There's going to be one fish per 10 stumps that's going to actually be active and it's going to bite. You need to fish those stumps as fast as you can, and concentrate on which side of the stump they're on, and, blah, 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 blah. And that's what I learned from my dad. And my dad's the first person that taught me about offshore fishing, too, on our home lake, which it does not work there anymore because I don't know why, but the fish they stay in 2 foot of water year round now. But I learned, I didn't learn everything I know from my dad,
Right.
but he sure did give me a heck of a start. And I just started fishing at this level, at the invitational level, the NPFL level in 2020. So I jumped up there, and just for information, I'm probably going to go back to the NPFL in 2025.
Heck yeah. We love the NPFL here at the Bass Cast. They're fishing right now, guys, on Pickwick Lake. Yep. And we love the NPFL. Had a lot of great guys on here from the NPFL. And for a small organization as they are, they do one heck of a great job. So shout out to NPFL, and I hope you guys are watching this week. It all go down on Pickwick Lake. It's pretty cool that, you brought up earlier about the pole and the forward facing sonar. And I've heard through the grapevine as well that a pole went out through Bassmaster as well. And we were trying to get somebody on that, was kind of deep into that. We haven't made it happen yet, but want to talk to them about what is going on there. But Zaldane did a video early in the year. I brought this up many times. And I mean, all he's doing was talking about what's on people's boats. And it was like, how many of these transducers, how many of these, plungers, that's what I call them.
That was awkward. That was so awkward, the interview.
Those guys were low balling so bad.
It's like Zaldane was interviewing a guy that didn't speak English. The whole thing felt like a casting couch, awkward video. It was just weird. And yeah, but I agree. Like some of those things are just, what was it? Schmitz would hit like, what, 37 like units at the console of his boat, like a wraparound matrix screen. It was crazy. Yeah, like it's like, oh, come on, dude. At that point, you're just lifting the truck because you want the looks. It's not for functionality.
Yeah, you can't pay attention to that much gear at one time. It ain't no way.
Oh God, no! Not even with Adderall, you couldn't do that.
I got 3 screens at work, 3 computer screens at work, and I'm constantly doing, my head going back and forth. It's just not
Yeah,
and look at the performance.
And I think it really comes down to what is the conversation going to be about? If you don't know, I had Jake Norman on, who actually runs Lake Fork Region 3 of Texas Department of Wildlife Resources. They did a 2-year data gathering study on the effects of forward-facing sonar, and they came out with it gives you a 1.6% increase in your ability to catch a fish. It's almost not significant. And they gathered data on all the major lakes in District 3, which includes Lake Fork, and they found out that there's not a big statistical significance. Now, he did preface it that the big significance you would see is in the 1%ers, which makes sense. If Barry Bonds takes steroids, he will have a bigger advantage of hitting a baseball than if my ass takes it. That makes sense to me. Now, if you're trying to ban it just straight outright versus trying to restrict the technology, I think those are the two debates you need to have, because you're having the Lanier series that went on. That didn't have a great turnout. And you have this thing at Gunnersville in the fall. If that bombs, what's going on? We're trying to offer no forward-facing sonar tournaments and people aren't showing up. And I think that's what's going to be interesting to see, is if we have more and more tournaments where we'll say like, hey, yeah, just take it off and show up, and no one does, should the big organizations then react to where social media says one thing, but people aren't backing that up with their money?
And we're about ready to go north with Bassmasters. Yeah. The elites are about ready to go north, and we all know what's going to happen north. I mean, it's going to be a forward-facing sonar game, and you're just going to watch people look at their screen for 8 hours a day.
But you're going to have how many people break the century belt? So it's so weird, because
12.
It's if you're Bass or anyone, you're like, what do people like to do for the ratings? They want to see 100 pounds of fish caught. Great. Crap, because the forward-facing sonar will help that. And so it's such a weird, they're caught in a really weird trap.
Yeah. I mean, we're really at a tipping point right now in bass fishing. And I think this year, that was pretty cool hearing from you, Eddie, that this survey went out, and, bass and Major League Fishing are trying to get a feel for where the anglers want to go with this. But they also got to, it's kind of one of the things in Major League Fishing, they preach it a lot, is TV, and they preach a lot the hours of TV, and people watching and learning and all that stuff. But how much, like Thomas just said, how many hours are people going to watch me look like this all day? I mean, how many hours am I?
I'm not going to watch it.
I'm not going to watch it either. I mean, even with the technology now that they're able to tap into a lot of the fish finders and we're actually. Go ahead. We're actually able just to watch their screen. I mean, we don't even need to watch them. And hell, we just, it's like these young kids that will watch a kid play a video game for 5 hours. I mean,
you're getting into like generational stuff, though. You know what I mean?
But but realistically, on the lakes up north, it's always been that way.
Always been that way.
Ledge fishing, people ask me all the time. Now, I live in Tennessee. I love to ledge fish. I love to offshore fish. Been doing it my whole life. And, even when it was when I just had 2D and a map on the front, I still knew when I threw my crankbait or when I threw my swim bait back there to watch under that transducer, because as that bait come back, you would see lines follow, and I would know. And then I could throw a follow-up bait. So, I mean, it's always been looking at the back of people's heads. I mean, it's just, they're always looking down to
especially when you're out in the middle of the ocean. Yeah.
And then I've even argued the fact, and it happened to me this weekend, with the ledge fish, once the ledge fishing on the Tennessee River is not what it used to be 10 years, 15 years, 20 years ago. And the reason why is because what was it, 2005? side imaging come out. And then those ledge bass had nowhere to hide. And
Mm-hmm.
that got better
Yeah.
and better and better and better. You know, I seen an article by Mark Rose back in 2000, and I think it was like 8 or 9, talking about it. And then, of course, you know, some of the big blowouts were when the Kentucky Lake tournaments happened, you know, where they caught the 100 pounds. I forgot his name, but, you know, that really kind of, those sort of lakes. But they're not the same now. And I think these fish, a lot of these fish that are being scoped, a lot of them are fish that have never seen boat traffic and pressure. And I know on one of my lakes, I'm already saying, listen, I threw at 200 bass. And this is a small lake. I threw at 200 bass Sunday. I got 1 3-pounder to bite.
I think the other fact is, like, what forward-facing sonar has revealed to all the anglers and the biologists is how many fish did live out in the ether and didn't come to the bank. It's an absolute crazy amount. And, you know, the question I wanted to build to you earlier is, would you rather see a Battle of Three Rivers Pittsburgh Classic with no scope, but you're going to catch 3 pounds, or would you rather see a Toledo Bend Lake Fork this year where they are staring at their screen, but they might catch 120, 130 pounds? What would you rather watch? And I think that's a very interesting, because that, I think, is the biggest conundrum. You will catch more and bigger fish with scope because there's more of them out there, or you rip it away. And guess what? If you go to Lake Eufaula in the summertime, it ain't going to be, you know, always stellar. Just spoilers. No. And so you can't have it both ways.
But my point is, I think that as more and more people get it, I think as more and more people get better with it, we're going to see that decrease over time.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna, you know, it's why I always say, let's not have a knee-jerk reaction. I like limited technology from the aspect of the dollar amount, because bass is, you know, tournament fishing is just a runaway train at this point. But I think you're going to see, as these fish get more pressured over time, it's just like an A-rig. I can't, you know, an A-rig, when it first come out, it was the greatest thing. The first fish I caught on it was a double. But now I throw that same stinking A-rig and I'm lucky to catch a fish unless it's like 20 degrees outside. You know.
They're smart. We just don't give them credit. I mean, even, you know, when Jake was talking with their study, they put cameras out in the water to watch a boat come up with forward-facing sonar to see, like, is it the pinging that spooks them? And what they found out, it's not the pinging, it's the boat itself. They hear the boat shutting off. And so whether you have scope or not, they feel that pressure. And that's insane that stupid little 12-inch thing has that kind of intelligence to know, like, okay, that's a 250 mercury. I better pucker up.
You know, me and you asked me a question one time. You said, is it the boat or is it the bait?
Yeah.
I think it's both. I think in the short term, the bait matters. And I'll tell you what I really noticed this past week. I was out fishing, and, you know, ledge fishing, anytime you're ledge fishing or offshore fishing, you know, especially at least me on this lake, I've got 30 rods on the deck, right? and I probably own every single minnow style bait that there is, and probably use some baits that are not intended to show them something different. And I can tell you right now that when I would cast a bait in, it took literally one cast. If that bait come by and they reacted to it and they didn't bite, I could throw it in again. And again, we're talking about a school of probably 100. I'm talking about a school of 50 to 100 bass, right? And I'd throw it in again, and they either flat out would not react to it on the second cast if they didn't bite it on the first, and then I'd have to change.
I have a couple of friends up here like SB Fishing who are insane with the scope. And this is the thing that I think separates the great scope anglers from everyone else, is they just did what you just said. 2 casts, they've already processed all that information. They know if that fish is in a relationship, the social security number, all that stuff, and they make the change. They're not going to hit that same fish for an hour. The people I think that are really good at scope, they can just take that one cast and they know what to do with that.
Yeah. Now, and that's true. Now, if they're grouped up, I will because you got to remember, these were grouped. It's just like ledge fishing.
Balls of fish.
When they're grouped, they're competitive, and if you can get them to fire, you'll catch them. But if we're talking about individual ones, what I call the onesie-twosies, threesies, hits 1, 2 casts, and the way that fish reacts to it, I'm gone.
Boom.
And but even the big balls, that's what amazed me. You could throw a bait out there and they'd chase it on the first cast. If you threw it again, they already knew. They're like, no, you change up, and then they'd hit it on something different.
Well, guys, we're about ready to lose Eddie because Eddie has to be has to be on another show. But let's wrap this up really quick with Eddie, man. You know, the poll after everything came out. Have you heard any feedback from any of the anglers chatter in the industry on? Because the anglers talk, guys. It's worse than one of the magazines you guys used to see on the counter at the grocery store. Anglers love to talk. What have you heard? What has been your feedback so far regarding this poll? And then we'll let you roll.
The only feedback that I got was about the entry fees going up.
Okay.
And that was the only feedback that I got. And I got that from 4 or 5 guys, you know, because right now, look, we're conscious of that.
Yes.
Right. Things are tightening up. We're conscious of it. And look, I'm not saying that, you know, due to my work situation, there's no way I can fish them in 25. It just can't happen. You know, their tournaments are too stacked. They're too tight together.
Yeah.
And I just there's no way I can logistically work it out with work. And that's why I said I'm probably looking at going back to the NPFL because they have a little time between their
They do. That's the best thing for the working man.
I can work that into the schedule and still be able to fish a you know, top tour tier and get practice in and hopefully be successful. You know, I won about $80,000 with NPFL the 2 years I fished them. So
wow, man.
Guys, we did not know what we were getting into when I messaged Eddie online. Holy cow.
I spent probably that on entry fees and fuel and hotel. So, you know, so I feel like I kind of broke even and I kind of fished for free.
And you had fun.
There to do, and I had fun. It was great. Just me and a certain part of the owner group had a clash in 23, and I kind of regret that. But at the same time, I don't regret it because, you know, I got to speak my mind, and I caught up with him at the Wright Patman event in 2023 because I was traveling back to work in Tennessee, and we had a good discussion, shook hands, worked it out. Awesome. I said, all right, you know, we're back, you know, together now. But, you know, while I do disagree with the increase in entry fees, because now it's going to be what, 32,500 to fish the invitationals. And here's another thing. The payback actually went down just a little bit. Instead of 8,000 for 25th place or 50th, whatever it is.
Yeah,
I can't remember. It dropped from 8 to 6.
So basically, what they're saying is they're saying, hey, we're not going to give you a raise for the past 20 years, but we're going to charge you more.
Yeah, that's.
I understand why a lot of people complain about that, because just like I talk about NASCAR, Thomas talks about baseball. You're going to have the bottom 20% they know they're going to be donating. They want to go out there. They, you know, might have an opportunity to win, but they know they're going to be donating. So they're pretty much donating to your classic because, you know, Eddie, you're probably going to win it. So, I mean, you know, I'm just throwing it out there. But, I mean, you know, that's what kind of gets into their mind, like, hey, I'm a good angler. I know I'm a good angler. I got a chance cashing checks. And now the checks have went down, and now I'm donating. And, you know, Bass did that thing here as well when Bass did that extra series where you didn't have to fish the Bass tournament, like Bass Nation of Virginia, Bass Nation of Tennessee. You could just fish a regular event, qualify, but then that event had to start charging, and that $40, $50 extra to go to bass. So you had the opportunity, and a lot of the local 9 to 5 anglers did not want to do that because they were just wanting to fish a tournament. They did not want to donate for Joe Blow to go fish a Bassmaster event to have a chance to go qualify to fish a classic. Go ahead, Thomas.
Tinfoil hat thing. Let's get crazy.
All right, let's get crazy.
You know, corporations in different lines will always do handshake agreements about, listen, you know, we're not gonna go where you are. You're not gonna go where I am. MLF started out. They dropped the big hammer of it's going to be free. And then all of a sudden, over the years, they kind of got in line with the Bassmaster, where if the Bassmaster stuff goes down a little bit, theirs goes down a little bit, where if you're Bass or if you're MLF, you have the money to jack up your pots to really put a hurting on the other one, make the other one look bad. But neither one is taking that advantage right now. Bass could easily, if MLF decided to cut down some of their paybacks, they could easily jack theirs up and look great, but they're not. Do you think they have a handshake agreement with each other? Because I wouldn't be shocked.
I don't think so. I think they still hate each other.
Then why aren't they doing this power move?
Yeah.
Why?
It is interesting.
Johnny Morris owns how much of MLF? He could figure out a way to crank up the entry fees again and make Bass look so bad, but he doesn't.
Eddie, I'm going to let you wrap us up for us here, and then we're going to probably wrap up the show after that. But, Eddie, give us your last thoughts, brother, and we're going to let you go.
My last thoughts are this right here, and I'll say this, and I believe it, and I would like to see it. Actually, I would like to see a mid-level tour come in at half what the pro level tours are, because the Bass is $5,000 too. You know, it's 45,000. They have 12 events. So if a pro level event come in around the $2,500 mark and paid back like 90% of the money, but didn't do all the shenanigans and all the stuff, and actually concentrated on building up the anglers without doing a whole bunch of hoopla, charge anglers, like I said, $2,500, pay back $50,000 for first place, down to, you know, pay a third of the field. You know, the last place gets their money back, maybe a little tiny bit more or whatever. I think that would be a winner. I really do. That, and eliminating all this dang practice time and all this hoopla stuff. Look, it doesn't matter what equipment you got. If you ain't got time to practice and go figure it all out, it's fair 100% across the board. Everybody's got the same chance. Absolutely the same chance. So I'd go out there with my two 12-inch Lowrances and go over here and see a bank that's got some bushes on it. And, hey, I might catch 20 pounds out of them bushes. God knows I've done it many times. And old boy out here that's got forward-facing sonar, he's going to swim around out there, and maybe he finds 14, 15 pounds. Maybe he finds 25 pounds. But at least everybody's got a chance. And you have to use what you have up here to figure it out. You can't figure it out with equipment because it's going to take you too much dadgum time. So you have to use your knowledge. I think that's where we need to go.
Eddie, thank you so much for coming on. Maybe we'll get you back on, dude. Appreciate you. Good luck if you next year fishing the NPFLs. Another great series. Wish you the best of luck then. Guys, we're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to wrap this bad boy up. All right, guys, really appreciate Eddie coming on and talking with us tonight. He's the first one we've actually had the opportunity to speak to that, has gotten the survey, and, really cool to hear someone else's opinion on what is really happening in the world of bass fishing on the top level. So Eddie had to run and be on another show, but appreciate him. Guys, hopefully you've all seen this as well. The basscast.com is sponsoring the LU fishing team is hosting events on Sunday starting July 21st on Smith Mount Lake, going out of the Oak Grove ramp. 6 to 12 3-fish limit, because it's that time of the year. We don't need 5 fish in a live well. 3 is all you really need. But 6 to 12, and the Basscast is sponsoring that, and we'll have full schedule. Everything's up on the back. Not everything's up on the site yet, but we'll have it all up on the site really, really soon. But yeah, starting July the 21st, Smith Mount Lake, Oak Grove ramp. And I think it's a 70% or 80% payback. Like I said, please go read. We love the word read.
Please go read.
Please go read everything. But it is 6 to noon, and it is everything's up there. So we're happy to be working with them to help them, because you guys all know we've had the Liberty kids on before. We've had a lot of other college kids on before. They do not get the backing of unless, and it's crazy because there are a lot of private schools out there that, we know a bunch of anglers go to that do get the backing because they don't have the big college football teams and they don't have the other big sports, and fishing is their main sport. And now Randy House kids are going to one of them. So, I mean, there's a lot of, and you guys all seen it. For you guys who are big into the college bass fishing world, 9 times out of 10, the top 5 are going to be from a Christian or a private school who spend a lot of money on bass fishing.
Adrian University back in the day. I mean, they're still pretty good. But...
And boom, right there. Yes, and they're still pretty daggone good.
I've still got 4 years of eligibility left. I'll go back to college.
Oh, my God. As Rodney Dangerfield, everybody.
I don't think there's a rule against that, right?
No, you can be. I got a buddy who was legitimately, he's a school teacher, and he was getting his doctorate, and he thought about doing it. Like, he still had eligibility.
That'd be awesome. Yeah. That'd be awesome. So, guys, I really appreciate everyone tuning in. Appreciate everybody listening. Don't forget the American Angler Outdoors. You guys can watch there. Groove Street Radio and Dockside Live Radio as well. Check us out there. Download the apps. I know Grove Street Radio has not come out with their app yet, but they're in the process of that. So a lot of great places where you can be listening to Basscast Radio. And you guys out here earlier, Geek is dropping the videos right now. What'd you say, 5 a week, Geek?
5 a week, Sunday through Thursday. Had to math that out there.
And so make sure you guys tune in. Please hit the like button and share. We're going to throw a party if he hits 100,000 this year. And that's been the goal.
Shots.
So, yes, we're going to have one heck of a party, and we'll probably even do it live.
You're more optimistic than I am.
Yes, we're going to make this happen, guys. So through the power of share, everything that we pretty much do here is free. I mean, you guys are helping, Thomas does have, his he's raising money to help pay the bills there. I have sponsors. Geek has sponsors. But for the most part, we do this for free. I mean, to be honest, because we love the sport of bass fishing, and we don't ask a lot. I think you guys can hit the share button. You guys can scroll through other out there on the internet, hit the share button, share us all, because it helps tremendously, helps grow, and it helps pay the bills, because that's how it's all done, because we all get paid, by sponsors and affiliates and all this other stuff. So just hit the share button. Thomas, real quick before we leave, what do we got coming from you special here in the next couple of days? Because, guys, it's a lot of shows for Thomas, man.
Oh, yeah. So, basically, let's work on next week. Next week, half my team's going down with all of my camera equipment. We are going to be live streaming every single day at iCast, including on the water demos, everything's happening. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Wasn't able to make it this year because of work. Corporate absolutely sucks. Do not do it. It'll kill your soul. But I was able to send people down there. So we are going to be giving you on the water coverage and on the floor coverage of everything that's going on. Tomorrow, I am breaking down the PowerPoint presentation that the state of Maryland gave us at the Black Bass Advisory meeting. We're going through this with Captain Steve Chaconis. He's actually sponsored by Skeeter Boats. He's an absolute legend. He was in Ike and Ellie's wedding. He's on the board with me, so he helps me break this down. You got to get involved in your local state. I know we always care about MLF and bass and stuff, but they'll do this in Virginia, Tennessee if you don't stay diligent. So that's coming up. And last thing, 3 more Patreon subscribers. We will be able to navigate to our next phase as we work towards our nonprofit. And at that time, when we get to 3, I'll make some bigger announcements that'll be happening in 2025.
So it's a lot happening right here. Like I said, with all of us Bass Geek, Basscast Radio, Fishing the DMV. Guys, hit the subscribe button, hit the share button. Have a great week, everyone. Guys, here at the basscast.com, I'm going to tell you this right now. Bruce is down there. It's going to be a bunch of lives for us as well. It's a big press release time for new products coming out for 2025. So you're going to be seeing a lot of that on the basscast.com. I tell you guys, there's two times of the year, the Bassmaster Classic and, this big iCast thing here where we're going to be blowing up the daggone internet and introducing you guys to a lot of great new products and what you guys can expect in the months and the years ahead. So appreciate you listening. Have a great night, everybody. And we will see you all next week right here on Basscast Radio.
Bye.